We're Maseches Tamid, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Hey. Before we go to Mishnah Hey, there's a question exactly what I meant yesterday when I was talking about Bikur Mimum Dalad Yomim. The carbon Tamid had to be inspected from blemish 4 days before it was brought as a carbon. There's a special rule that we learn out, the Chazal learned out from Sukkim, with respect to the carbon Tamid, the daily offering in the morning and daily offering in the afternoon. And we'll also learn out of a pasuk that the Lishkas Hatloyim, which we took a look at yesterday, Midos diagram number 3, the Lishkas Hatloyim in the base Hamoked, one of the 4 chambers in the base Hamoked says Tloyim, and they kept 6 animals in there, so they would have 6 carbon Tamids, other carbonas, but they had we learned out that they needed to have 6 animals in the Lishkas Hatloyim, and every time they took out 2. So they took out 2 today, Monday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Tonight they would replenish it, put 2 more in, so that it would be 6 again. And the 2 that they brought in tonight obviously would be marked as having being brought in Monday night, and they would be not roy carbon until Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Shabbos, depending on how you count the days. The machlokes, after bikur inspection for 4 days, you can bring it as a carbon. This bikur is machlokes Rambam and other mafarshim. The Rambam holds that the inspection of the animal was done when it was brought into the Lishkas Hatloyim, and then 4 days later, when you wanted to bring it for a carbon Tamid, immediately before it was inspected again. Rashi and other mafarshim hold Bikur Mimum Dalad Yomim means that it was inspected every single day and night for the entire 4-day period. I think the point of confusion may have occurred when I spoke about the Bikur Mimum Dalad Yomim and the number of Tloyim that had to be in the Lishkas HaTloyim, which were 6. When I mentioned that the only Yontif that can turn into 3 days in Eretz Yisrael is Rosh Hashanah, Bizman Shebeis HaMikdash Kayim, when there was no problems that we discussed yesterday with Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is also Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, and there was a problem with Kiddush HaChodesh on the same day Yontif. We explained that yesterday. So eventually, after certain takonos were made, Rosh Hashanah and Eretz Yisrael became 2 days as well. There's a possibility that Rosh Hashanah could be 3 days. Rosh Hashanah could be, Rosh Hashanah is 2 days, but it can lead to a 3-day situation. Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday is Rosh Hashanah, and Shabbos is Shabbos. So we have 3 straight days. Obviously, during those 3 straight days, there are 6 carbon Tamids that are going to be brought. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, on Thursday, on Friday, and on Shabbos. Okay, that's what we talked about yesterday. Now, the Bikur Mimum that requires 4 days is something we learn out of a pasuk. That's it. That's what the pasuk says. You must inspect the animal 4 days before it's brought, according to the Rambam, when you bring it in, and right before you shecht it, according to Rashi, day and night for 4 days. Okay. Now, lesimna ba'alma, just a way to keep this in your mind, that a bikur mimum has to have 4 days, so you keep in your mind Rosh Hashanah that goes into a Shabbos. What happens when Rosh Hashanah goes into a Shabbos? Rosh Hashanah is Thursday. You can't buy animals on Thursday. Rosh Hashanah is Friday. You can't buy animals on Friday. Shabbos is Shabbos. You can't buy an animal on Shabbos. So when would they have had to buy an animal for Sunday? In other words, the 6 Tloyim that are in the Lishkas HaTloyim are going to take care of Thursday, Friday, and Shabbos. But what are you going to do on Sunday? Sunday is For us, we would call it the first day after Rosh Hashanah, but their Shabbos, it would be Tzom Gedalia. Thursday is Rosh Hashanah, Friday is Rosh Hashanah, Shabbos would be Tzom Gedalia, but you can't fast on Shabbos. So we push off Tzom Gedalia to Sunday. We're going to get 2 animals for Sunday that have been inspected for 4 days. Means that you would have had to bought animals on Wednesday. So you inspected it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, and now you have 4-day inspected 2 animals that you can bring on Sunday. So it's just l'simna ba'alma. The halacha is that the Lishkas Hatloyim had 6 animals in it as a minimum. The halacha is that you had to inspect it for 4 days before you can bring a carbon tamid. And l'simna ba'alma, just as a way to remember that an animal would need to be inspected 4 days before, even though you don't need a sin. It's a pasuk. We learn it out of a pasuk. But l'simna ba'alma, as a way to remember it, is there are times when Rosh Hashanah goes into Shabbos. If Rosh Hashanah goes into Shabbos, what are you going to do about the carbon tamid on Sunday? Answer is, you must have bought it Wednesday, Erev Rosh Hashanah, and then you would have inspected it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. You can bring it on Sunday. And that's how you can remember the rule that Bikur Mimum is 4 days. So if somebody forgets, he can't remember, is Bikur Mimum 5 days before the carbon tamid? Is Bikur Mimum 6 days before the carbon tamid? Is Bikur Mimum 2 days before the carbon tamid? The answer is just remember Rosh Hashanah that goes into Shabbos. If Rosh Hashanah goes into Shabbos, the animals would have to be bought and inspected on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. Sunday you can bring the animal 4 days of inspection. That's all it is. It's a simna ba'alma to remember 4 days is required inspection. So if you get confused in numbers, just remember, Rosh Hashanah goes into Shabbos. You would have had to buy the animals and inspect it Wednesday, which leads to 4 days. Okay. Perek Gimel, Mishnah, hey. We're on page 15 of the V'hasheves Havoda. I understand that 2 or 3 people have not received their V'hasheves Havoda, and that's because there were 1 or 2 orders that came in late, and we didn't get them all delivered to the Sforum store at the same time. I've been in touch with the Sforum store, and hopefully we'll have them today or tomorrow, and we'll get them to you. But we're in Tamid Perek Gimel, Mishnah Hey, and in the V'hasheves Havoda, it's page 15. I had sent out an email to Shmuel, and I believe he sent it to everybody. We always have our Midos number 3 handy. And for today, I asked Shmuel to send out an email to ask the group to have Midos 25, Midos 31, 32, and 34 available. What we're really going to be using today is number 3, our famous number 3, number 25, what number 25 looks like. Number 34. Number 32. Number 31. Okay, and here we go. A lot of what we're going to learn today, we're going to learn quite a bit today, but what we're going to be learning today is really a review of what we've learned about already in Masechta Midos. And here we're going to get a more, perhaps, in-depth view of what we saw in Masechta Midos. We go to Midos, diagram number 3. Okay. To review again, the white area, hypothetically, this white area is the Har Habayis. We're coming down from Har Hazesim, east to west. We're coming across the bridge that was built from Har Hazesim to the Shar Shushan Habira. This is not Shushan Habira. This is the opening into the Ezras Nashim. diagram number 2 to refresh our recollections. Came onto the Har Habayis by going into Shar Shushan Habira. This is the Har Habayis. You entered the Soreg, the gate or the wall that separated between Goyim and Jews. Goyim could not go past this wall. Then you had 10 amos of the Chayil. Then you have the wall of the Ezras Noshim. You walk through the Ezras Noshim. Ezras Noshim 135 by 135. 15 steps up, you're at Shar Nicanor. You go into Shar Nicanor, you're Ezras Yisrael, Ezras Kohanim. You're at the Mizbeach. This is south. Two entryways to the Har Habayis on the south, Sharei Hulda. West entry to the Har Habayis, Kipunus. North entry to the Har Habayis, Teddy, which was only used, as we learned, for Kohanim who became Tamid would exit through this Shah. So we've entered the Har Habayis through Shushan Habira. We've gone through the gate of the Soreg. We've walked through the Chayil. We walked through the opening in the Ezras Noshim. We walked 135 amas. We're going up this 15 steps. We've gone into Ezras Yisrael. We've gone into Ezras Kohanim. Assuming that you're permitted to go any further, we're coming to the Mizbeach HaChitzon, the outer Mizbeach that has the ram. This is the Mizbeach that the Karbonos are going to be brought on. We now go to diagram 3. We're up to here. We're on this Mizbeach. The Mizbeach, we learned already, has 3 marachos, 3 sets of logs. Maracha Gedola to the east, Maracha Ketores to the west, and towards the southern wall, north, we have the small Maracha of logs, the purpose being to keep a fire on the Mizbeach 24/7. In the middle, we have the Tapuach of Ash. What we're going to learn about today is this area, which we already learned about Maseches Tamid. This is north of the northern part of the Azorah. The Mizbeach runs from south to north. At the certain distance, we learned Maseches Tamid. You can see it's 8 amos. I marked it into my picture. 8 amos between the Mizbeach. There was 8 amos of free space, and then there were 24 rings in the floor. These were the rings that would open and close. They were half circles that you were able to open and then lock into the ground. And that's where the head of an animal would be put, and it will be held straight so that you can do the shechita without any problem. This is the place called the Taba'ot, the rings. Next to the place with the rings, there's the place called the Beis HaMitbachayim. For lack of a better word, the butcher shop. And the Beis HaMitbachayim had 8 tables and 8 pillars that we call nanasim, short pillars. And that's what we're going to learn about again today, these short pillars and the tables. The way this picture, the Kahati picture shows it, is looking from the northern wall. You have 4 poles, 4 tables, 4 poles, 4 tables. So altogether there's 8 poles and 8 tables. 4 poles, 4 tables, 4 poles, 4 tables. There's 8 of each. The poles have a slab of wood. These poles are made out of marble. On the top, there's a slab of wood, and into the wood they screwed in hooks. And these nanosim, these short pillars of marble, were made to hang the animal after shechita on, so they'd be able to cut open the animal into its appropriate pieces. The insides of the animal were then taken out and put on the tables to be washed out before they're brought to the Mizbeach. We learned about this in Maseches Tamid, and now the Mishnah is going to teach it to us in Maseches Tamid with a little more in-depth view. We're in the middle of lottery number 2. Lottery number 1 was done while it was still dark. The winner was able to do the Trumas Hadeshen, and he did Trumas Hadeshen before dawn. The second pious, the second lottery, was for 13 winners. The first winner was the Kohen who would shech the Korban Tamid. And as we mentioned, whoever won a certain avoda in the morning did the same avoda in the afternoon. So if you won shchita for Korban Tamid Shel Shacha Monday, you did shchita Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim Monday. If you won Zerikas Hadam Monday, Korban Tamid Shel Shacha, you won Zerikas Hadam Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim Monday. They did the same pious. The Mamuna, the supervisor, called out a number. The Kohanim had their fingers out. You would move around. The winning number, the winning finger, became the Shochet. The person to his right became the Zoreg. And so on and so forth. They went around until they had 13 winners who would do 13 different things with the carbon. So now the Mishnah is going forward. Perek Gimel Mishnah. Misha Zocher Atomid. The winner of the second lottery, the first winner of the second lottery. Who's the first winner of the second lottery? If we go back to Tamid, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Aleph, Amar Lahem HaMamuna, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Aleph, the supervisor said, Bo'u v'hafisu, come, let's do the lottery. Mi shochet, who's going to slaughter the animal? He's winner number one. To his right is Mizorek, the person that's going to sprinkle the blood. So we have 13 winners, and we're now picking up. Misha Zocher Batamid, Perek Gimel Mishnah Hey, the person that won the lottery, and he's going to shech the Korban Tamid. Moshcho v'holech lebeis hamid b'chayim. He took the animal from the Lishkas Hatloyim in the Beis Hamokeh, and he took it to the Beis Hamid b'chayim. He took it to the place where the rings are. Midos 3, the ring area. And this is where he's going to prepare it for Shrita. Umisha Zochu Beivorim Holchen Acharov. And there are 6 Kohanim that we learned about in Perek, in Mishnah Aleph. 6 Kohanim. After the Shrita was done, one of them had the head and the right leg. Another one had the 2 sides. Another one, etc., had the throat. There were 6 Kohanim who brought the parts of the Korban Tamid to the ram. So those Kohanim, remember, we haven't shechted the animal yet, not up to there yet. We're just getting the supervisor of the pious has made an announcement. Whoever won Shchitas HaTamid, go get the animal in the Lishkas HaTloyim and bring it to the rings. The other 6 Kohanim who eventually are going to bring up the cut parts of the animal to the ram, they follow him. Now the Mishnah describes Beis Hamid B'chayim, this place that we just described in Midos diagram 3, the place with the rings and the Beis Hamid B'chayim, the butcher shop. Hoya Litzvono Shel Mizbeach, it was north of the Mizbeach. Va'olav Shmona Amudim Nanosim, and there were 8 Amudim, pillars, Nanosim, but short. The pillars themselves were made out of marble. Uraviyah Shel Erez Al Gabeim, and there was a square piece of cedar wood on top. They had to have cedar wood on top because they needed to insert hooks into this stand so that they can hang the animal on the hooks and begin to cut the animal into its component parts for hakrova, of course, after shechita. So why didn't they make the whole thing out of wood? If you just make the whole pillar out of wood, you can put the hooks right into the pillar. Why do you have to make the pillar of marble and on top of it put wood? The answer to that is because, as we learned, you are not allowed to put in an upright position any kind of wood in the Beis Hamikdash. We learned that out of a pasuk. Not only does the pasuk prohibit planting trees, it says so you couldn't take a pole of wood and put it in the ground of the Beis Hamikdash, it forms what looks like a tree. So the pole itself was made out of marble, but you can't put nails or hooks in marble. It'll fall out, as we know. If anyone who has experience trying to put a hook into marble, it'll just crack. So they had to make the stand or these poles out of marble because you can't put wood up straight in the Beis Hamikdash. And on top of it, they would put a slab of cedar wood, and in the cedar wood, they would put hooks. And there were hooks of steel that were in these slabs of wood. There were 3 rows to each of these slabs. Now, remember when we learned Maseches Tamid, we saw all kinds of opinions about what these hooks looked like and how they were placed. So if we go to Midos, number 25, it's showing you the picture of having a hook, 1 hook on each side. There was a hook on the eastern side, a hook on the southern side, and a hook on the northern side. They did not put a 4th hook on the western side. If there was a hook on the western side, then the Kohen would have his back to the Kodesh Kadoshim. So in order to avoid that, according to this picture, each slab of wood had 3 hooks on east, north, and south. 1 hook on each side. According to this picture, an animal, 3 animals could be cut at the same time because there are 3 hooks on 3 different sides. That's the picture we used in Maseches Tamid. There are other mafarshim that say that the 3 hooks were on one side of the slab, a high hook, a middle hook, and a lower hook. At any rate, we discussed that in Maseches Tamid. These are your amudim nanosim, your short poles, your short pillars. The bottom is marble, the top is a slab of wood. In the slab of wood, there are hooks, and here you have an example of an animal that's already been shechted hanging on the hook. Shebahem tolim umafshitin. It was on these hooks that you would hang the animal and skin off the hide and begin the process of cutting into the necessary pieces. Now the Mishnah tells us another thing, al shulchanos, and what were those 8 tables for? Remember, there's the pillar of marble, slab of wood on top, hooks in it. There are 8 of them. That's one thing, to hang the animal on, cut off the hide, and cut it into pieces. Now there are tables. Going back to your picture, you can see there are separate tables, 8 tables. That's where they would take the insides of the animal, put them on the table, and wash them out before they're brought to the Mizbeach. These shulchanos, again, were made out of marble. They were not made out of silver or gold. We learned this in Maseches Tamid. The Gemara in Tamid and other places asks, why weren't these tables in Midos 25? Why didn't they make these tables out of gold or silver? We learned the rule, Ein aniyus b'makom ashiras. We learned it yesterday. Remember, we learned that before they shechted the korban tamid, they would bring a gold vessel out that had water, and they would let the animal, the sheep, drink water. The purpose of that, we learned yesterday, was by hydrating the animal, it would be easier to remove the hide. We learned that yesterday. But when the requirement was that the vessel that the animal drinks out of be a gold vessel, because in God's palace, there's ein aniyus b'makom ashiras. You don't show poverty where there's a palace, where there's a king. So these tables, where they're going to wash the insides of the animal, could be made out of gold or silver. So why do they make them out of gold or silver? Why do they make them marble? We learned then in Maseches Tamid, the Gemara answers, because since the animal was just slaughtered, and an animal that's just slaughtered, the body is very hot. It's heated up from the process of shechita. If you put it on a slab of gold or silver metals have the tendency to heat things up even more, to maintain the heat or even add heat. And we don't want to add heat. There's no refrigeration in Beis Hamikdash. So we want to put the animal after Shechita on something that will cool it down. So we made these tables out of marble. The animal was put on marble to help the cooling down process so that the animal wouldn't rot in the heat. To which the Gemara asks, we learned this when we learned Midas, the Gemara asks, why do we have to worry about the heat of the body of the animal? One of the miracles that happened to Beis Hamikdash, we're told, is that Lo Hisriach Pesach HaKodesh Me'olam. The Gemara in Yuma tells us that one of the miracles of the Beis Hamikdash is that the meat of a carbon never became rot. It didn't ruin from the heat. So why are we worried about heat all of a sudden? The Gemara there says, Ein maskir ma'asanisim. Our old rule is of Ein somchin al hanes. You do not rely on a miracle. So yes, God performed a miracle, and that's at God's will, but we don't go into a process and say, I'm going to do this because I know God's going to do a miracle. God does the miracles as he chooses. We have to act as if there will be no miracle, and we have to do our hishtadlus with few exceptions, which we spoke about when we learned Maseches Midas. So again, if we go to diagram number 25 in Midos, we have the poles of marble, the slabs of wood that's called amudim nanosim, and it had hooks in it. Separately, there are 8 tables of marble where the insides of the animal were washed. It wasn't gold or silver, so that the animal would not heat up more than it's already heated from the shechita, and therefore we avoid the animal going rotten, the insides going rotten from the heat. But there was a miracle. Why are we worried about it becoming rotten? Yes, there was a miracle. But we need to do what we need to do from a human vantage point, and then if the miracle happens, it happens. So these tables were made out of marble. And if you look at your Midas diagram 3, you can see the Mizbeach, the rings for Shechita, and the 8 amudim nanosim that had the slab of wood on top, and the 8 tables for washing down the insides of the animal. If you take a look in your Bahasha Es Avoda, page 129, they're showing 128 and 129. They're showing you the hooks. They're showing you the tables. They're showing you the animal hanging on a hook. For those who, I guess some people don't enjoy these kind of pictures, but that's, I guess, what it would look like, an animal hanging on one of these amudim nanosim. And here you have an animal being washed down on one of the shulchanos. And you have a whole chapter. The way the Hosheves Havoda is written is by chapters. You have a whole chapter called Hefshet Nituach Hadas, skinning the animal, cutting the animal, and washing the animal. You have a summary in Hebrew of Maseches Tamid of how it's done. And for each step of the way, you have pictures. So picture 146, page 128, picture 146, they're showing you the amudim and the shulchanos. Note here that the way they're showing it is not the way the Kahati shows it. Here they're showing you 8 tables, one after another, rows of 4, 2 rows of 4 tables, and then 2 rows of the amudim nanosim with the slabs of wood on top. So the tables are all together in rows of 4, and the poles are all together in rows of 4. That's not the way the Kahati pictures it, different Mefarshim. The Kahati pictures it in diagram 3 of Midos, 4 tables, 4 poles, 4 tables, 4 poles, instead of 8 and 8. Okay. Tamid Perek Gimel Mishnah Vav. Before we go to Tamid Perek Gimel Mishnah Vav, let's go back to Tamid Perek Gimel Mishnah Aleph. Gimel Mishnah Aleph. I'm going to turn to my Vahoshe Ves Avoda. We're on page 15. Amar Lahem HaMamuna. The Mamuna, the supervisor of the lottery, is doing lottery 2. Bova Fisu, he said, come, let's do the next lottery. Lottery 2. Remember, lottery 1 is Trumas Hadesh and we're done. Lottery 2, Mishochet, we just spoke about him. He's the one that went to the Lishkas Hatloyim to get the animal. And with him went 6 more Kohanim who are going to be responsible for the avoda of the Korban Tamid. And they are Mizorek, Mibedashim, and then Mizorek, who's going to sprinkle the blood. Stop. Then it says that Mi Medashim is Be'ach HaPnimi, Mi Medashim es HaMenorah. The first winner, his finger was the number 82, his finger was 82, he is going to shech. The person next to him is going to sprinkle the blood. The person next to him is now going to be responsible to clean off the Mizbeach HaKtores inside the Heichel to bring new Ketores. The person next to him is going to be Mi Medashin Es HaMenorah, who's going to clean out the menorah from the wicks and the oil of yesterday so that the menorah can be kindled again later today in the afternoon. So that's where this Mishnah is up to now. Winner number 1 went and got the carbon and brought it to the rings north of the Mizbeach. The other Kohanim who are going to deal with the Korban Tamid, the ones that are going to bring the parts up to the Mizbeach, the one that's going to sprinkle the blood, they all went with him. They're all now north of the Mizbeach. They cannot shech the animal yet because there are 2 things that have to happen before they shech the animal. This is what Mishnah Vav is talking about. Misha Zacha Bedisha Mizbeach HaPnimi V'Hanoira Hoyu Makdimin. The 2 winners, the one who's going to clean out the Mizbeach HaPnimi, back to our Midos number 3, the Mizbeach inside the Heichel, the little Mizbeach V'Ketores. There's a Kohen that won that lottery, right, by a process of going to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. A Kohen is going to go in here and clean off the Mizbeach from yesterday's Ketores to prepare us for today's Ketores. And then there's another Kohen that's going to go to the southern wall of the Azorah, and he's going to clean out the menorah from yesterday's oil and yesterday's wicks so that new oil and wicks can be put in. So those are the 2 next winners. What are they going to do? So this is what they did. Me, Perikil Mishnah. Misha Zacha B'Disha Mizbeach HaPnimi V'Amnora Hoy Makdimin. The person who's going to clean off the Mizbeach, the inner Mizbeach of the Ketores, and who's going to clean out the menorah, Hoyu Makdimin, they would enter the Heichel. Makdimin, they would come first. In other words, they would go into the Heichel. We'll see this, everybody be patient. They will go into the Heichel before any Shechita took place. Because before Shchitas HaKorban, you had to clean the Mizbeach HaKtores and you had to clean the menorah before Shchita. We're just describing now what these 2 Kohanim had with them. Abba Kalim B'Yodim. These 2 Kohanim, the one who's going to clean the Mizbeach HaKtores and the one who's going to clean the menorah, had 4 vessels. Remember we learned yesterday, 93 vessels were used during the day. We mentioned yesterday one of the Makoros is the fact that Hashem's name is mentioned 93 times in Sefer Chagi, Zachariah, and Malachi, the last 3 prophets. And there's a question how you count the 93, but here are 4 of the 93 Kalim. Hateni is like a basket. The person who's going to be responsible, the Kohen that's going to be responsible to clean off the Mizbeach HaKtores, he would have a gold vessel that looked like a basket. He needs a basket type of keli, which means it's going to have a large opening on top because he's going to scoop the ash from the Mizbeach HaKtoros. He's going to put it into this basket. So he had a teni, a gold basket. So the person who is going to clean off the Mizbeach so far has a basket, gold basket in his hand. V'hakuz, and then there was a kuz, which is like a keton, which is like a flask, means it's narrow on top. A basket is wide on top. That was used by the Kohen who's going to clean off the Mizbeach HaKtoros and put the ash in it. The second Kohen who's going to clean out the menorah, he's going to take out oil, wicks, and he's going to put it into this flask. Ushtei maftachos. And the Kohen who's going to clean the Mizbeach, who has the gold basket, he's also going to have 2 keys with him. Those are the keys to open the Heichel. There is no avoda, there's no shchita, let's say shchita, there's no shchita done unless the doors of the Heichel are open. Going back to Midos number 3, this is our 12 steps into the Ulam. This is the Heichel. The Heichel is broken into 2 rooms. The first room has the Mizbeach HaKtoros, the menorah against the southern wall, the shulchan for the lechem apanim against the northern wall, the curtain behind the curtains, the kodesh kadoshim, and the aron. Right here, you enter the ulam. This is the doorway of the heichel. This doorway had to be opened before a korban could be shechted. We learned that out of a pasuk, because the korban had to be brought Pesach Ohel Moed, to the opening of the Ohel Moed. Ohel Moed is what this room would be considered in the Midbar when there was a Mishkan. So this door to the Heichel had to be opened before there was any Shechita. So now we're going to have to open these doors. How do you open these doors? You need keys. So the Kohen who has the basket, the gold basket in his hand, and he's going to clean off the Mizbeach HaKtoros, he also, besides the gold basket, he has 2 keys. Ushtei maftachos, he has 2 keys. So we have 2 Kohanim. The Kohen who won the lottery to clean off the inside Mizbeach HaKtoros has a basket to put the ash of the Mizbeach HaKtoros and 2 keys to open the Heichel. The Kohen who won the lottery to clean the menorah, he is only walking in there with 1 vessel, and that's the flask to put the oil and the wicks. Hateni, the Mishnah says, this basket, doma l'tarkav gadol shel zahab, it was made out of gold, but it was almost the size of a tarkav. Tarkav means something that held 3 kabed. We won't go into that measurement. This basket almost held 3 kabed. Machzik kabayim v'chetzi. This basket was able to hold not 3, but was able to hold 2.5 kabed. That's quite a bit of ash. V'hakuz, and the flask that was used to clean the menorah, doma l'kiton shel zohar. It was like a flask made out of gold. Ushtei maftachos, and the Kohen who's going to clean off the Mizbeach also had the 2 keys. Echad yored la'amas hashechi, ve'echad poseach keva. Now this is a very, very complicated words. The idea is not complicated, the words are complicated. They're so complicated that the Gemara in Bab Metzia and Daf Lamed Gimel says, the Gemara there has halachas about what covet comes first. If you have something to do for your Rebbe Muvak, not just talking about a Rebbe, you're talking about a Rebbe Muvak, so we don't get confused. This is a lot of halachas, Rambam Hilchas Talmud Torah, Rebbe Muvak, Rebbe Sheni Muvak. So Gemara has a question about what a Rebbe is. At what point you become a Rebbe? Question, are we talking about Rebbe Muvak, your official Rebbe that you know everything, or we talk about a Rebbe who just happens to have taught you some things, Bab Metzia and Hilchas Talmud Torah. The Gemara there poses a question, what would fall under the definition of a Rebbe? One of the examples the Gemara says is Rava, the great Rava said that Rav Schora is my Rebbe. Why is he my Rebbe? I'm sorry. The Gemara says that Shmuel said that a certain Talmud Chacham he considered his Rebbe, so much so he considered his Rebbe that when this Talmud Chacham died, Shmuel ripped Kriya. When a Rebbe, Le'aleinu, dies, a Talmud rips Kriya. And Shmuel said, there's a certain Talmud Chacham, when he died, I ripped Kriya, and the only thing I learned from him was one thing. What did I learn from him? I learned what this Mishnah in Tamid means. Echad yored la'amas hashechi, ve'echad pesach kiva. The two keys with which you open the heichal, one, you go down to your armpit. Amas hashechi, shechi is like your armpit. Ve'echad pesach kivan, and one opens kivan. Now, the ideas are simple. How you fit them into the words is what this Rebbe taught Shmuel. We go to Midos. Midos 34b. This is the door of the Heichel. Let's go to Midos 3 first. You walked up 12 steps, you came to this large rectangular building. It was 100 amos wide, 100 amos from north to south, 11 amos from east to west. This is your large rectangle. Remember, we learned this is Ariel. This building was supposed to look. This building is built inside the Azara. This open area is Azara. The building in the Azara is the Ulam and the Heichel. It's supposed to look like a lion, Ariel. The head of a lion is large. The back of the lion is narrow. Ho Ariel. This is the Heichel door. And this door was 10 amos wide and 20 amos high. In fact, as we learned, all entryways in the Har HaBayis and in the Beis HaMikdash were 10 wide and 20 high, with one exception. The door, the opening, no door, the opening to the Ulam was double. The opening of the Ulam was 20 wide and 40 high. It had no door, it only had a curtain. The Ulam is 20 wide, 40 high. All the other entryways are 10 wide, 20 high. On the northern and southern side of the door of the Heichel, there was a pishpash. There were small little doors. So if you take a look at Midos 34b, you have the 20 by 10 door of the Heichel. To the north and south of the door of the Heichel, there were little doors. It's called a pishpash. The northern door is the door we're talking about. The southern door we'll see tomorrow. We already learned about in Maseches Midos. There's a pasuk in Yecheskel that says this door was never to be opened. The southern door, that was the pishpash to the Heichel door. The northern door is what they opened to go into the Heichel. They came back around, which we'll see tomorrow, and they opened the doors, the big doors from the inside. In other words, they didn't just walk up to the large Heichel doors and open them up. They went into a small door, the northern door, the little door. That northern door took them inside a tunnel, and that tunnel took them inside the Heichel, and once in the Heichel, they opened the doors from the inside of the Heichel. And that we will neither see tomorrow. If you're looking at your Bahashev Esfa Avoda, on page 101, picture 110 and 111, You have the very large door, and then you have a small door, the northern pishpash right here, and it's into that small door the Kohen will go. He will go into sort of a tunnel or corridor, which will then lead him into the Heichel, and he will open the doors from inside the Heichel, which you can then see, and we'll see tomorrow in pictures 112 and 113. The Kohen is in the Heichel, and he's opening the doors from inside the Heichel. So he doesn't, if we're looking at picture 110 in V'hasheves Havoda, the Kohen didn't walk up to the large door and open the large door. He went through a small door next to the large door, walked in there, got into the Heichel, and opened those large doors from inside the Heichel. So what is this now, these last words in the Mishnah? There are two keys. Echad, Yoed l'Amas Hashechi. One, you have to go all the way down to your armpit. And one, you open Keva. Keva means you can open quickly, directly. The way the locks were set up on the small Pishbesh Tzafon, there was the large door. To the right of the large door, there's the Pishbesh Tzafon, the northern small door. To the left of the big door, there was the Pishbesh Darom, the southern Pishbesh. And that southern door was never opened for us for today. We'll see tomorrow if it was ever open. We're dealing here with the little door to the right of the large door of the Heichel, and that door had two locks on it. One was at the bottom. From what I understand, you have a door. This is your little door. Okay. You have your big door. The Hasheves Havoda is your big door. I don't forget about right and left right now. This is your pishpash. This is the northern pishpash. The Kohen is going to go into here. When he enters here, he's going to end up behind, and he's going to open this door from the inside. This little door has a lock at the bottom, but you can't reach the lock. You have to put your hand in. It looks like there was a little opening at the bottom of the door. The Kohen would have to bend down, stick his arm all the way into the door until his armpit was in the door. So he stuck his whole arm through this little door, took a key, and was able to open a lock from the inside of this pishpash. That's lock number one. That's Echad Yored La'amas Hashechi. One lock you had to literally put your armpit into in order to get to the lock and open the lock. The Echad Posech Kevon, and one was a direct lock, simple. The Kohen was standing. He put the key into the northern pishpash, and he opened it. When we learned, I saw there was a question about how they locked the doors. When we learned Maseches Tamid, we went through the Mishnah about how they locked the doors. They would lock the doors. Better we take a look at it tomorrow. It's a machlokes. We learned in the Mishnah in Midos what kind of doors there were. Remember, there is two sets of doors, inner doors and outer doors. The question is whether there were four doors, two outside doors that open like this, two inside doors that open like this, or whether each door was a folding door. If you remember, a collapsible door. The Mishnah in Midos explained both shittas. The Mishnah here does not explain both shittas, which we'll see tomorrow. It only explains the shitta that there were four doors, plain and simple, no collapsing doors. That sheet does not go down Maseches Tamid, and they would lock it at night. They would go in, they would lock the outer doors, and then when they would lock the inner doors, we'll take a look at that picture, Bli Neder, tomorrow. Okay, so for tomorrow, we're up to Perek Gimel, Mishnah Zayin. I hope that you're enjoying the V'hasheves Havoda. You can literally, after a day of learning, after the morning of learning, you can simply go to the back and it goes in order. Besides the fact that you have an index on page 37, it's a Hebrew index, but you have an index of every Mishnah and the page of the picture. But it starts with the very beginning of Maseches Tamid, page 45, Shmiras HaMikdash. The first thing we learned about Maseches Tamid, remember the first thing we learned about Maseches Midos, guarding the Mikdash. And you have a summary in Hebrew of what the rules of Shmiras HaMikdash are. And then they show you pictures of the places where Shmiras HaMikdash occurred. Very wonderful pictures of every place where there was Shmiras HaMikdash, 3 Kohanim in 3 places, 21 Leviim in 21 places. The next thing we learned about Maseches Tamid is where did the Kohanim sleep? The Kohanim who came for today's Beis Av, they came every 24 weeks, and every 24 weeks they were broken in 6 groups. They came last night, Sunday night, to do the Avodah Monday. Where did they sleep? They slept in the Beis Hamoked on Mogdim. We learned that in Midos, we learned that again in Tamid. What did that look like? Page 51, 52, 53. Explanation plus pictures of where the Kohanim slept. Okay, so that's how you can use the Vahashe as Avodah. You have the Mishnayos in there and the wonderful pictures to illustrate what we're learning.